You see the world with a clarity that feels more like a curse than a gift. You see the comfortable lies people tell themselves just to get through the day, the fragile way they build their beliefs, the carefully managed performance of their lives, and it has left you completely and utterly alone. You move among them, but you're not one of them. A strange, quiet gap separates you from their easy laughter and their shared worries. It's a loneliness so heavy you can feel it. A silence that screams in the middle of the night. But what if that crushing loneliness isn't a sign that you're broken? What if, as the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche warned, it's the terrible price you have to pay for seeing the truth? What if this isolation isn't your failure, but the beginning of your awakening? To see the truth is to be a ghost at the feast of life. You're at the table. You watch the mouths move. You hear the celebration. But the meaning, the connection, it all passes right through you. You've become a spectator in a game where you now see the rules are totally arbitrary. You've peeked backstage and seen all the actors taking off their masks. This is the first payment the truth demands, your sense of belonging. Think of the conversations you have to endure. The small talk about nothing, designed not to communicate, but just to confirm that everyone is still inside the same shallow reality. The political arguments where opinions aren't formed but inherited, recited like a loyalty pledge to a tribe. The moral judgments delivered with absolute certainty, while you see the tangled mess of fear, envy, and convenience hiding right underneath. You see the hypocrisy, not as some great moral sin, but as a survival tool for the group. You realize society isn't a grand search for truth. It's a conspiracy against it. It's a system of unspoken agreements to not look too closely, not ask too many questions, and to maintain the story that keeps the whole thing from falling apart. As Nietzsche pointed out, what we call truth is often just a bunch of metaphors and illusions we've repeated so many times we've forgotten they're illusions. They're like old coins that have been worn smooth, traded as simple metal, their original images long gone. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. The world becomes a museum of beautiful, complicated lies. You see the lie of effortless happiness on social media, a highlight reel that hides the silent desperation. You see the lie of pure meritocracy, the comforting tale that success is always earned and failure is always deserved. You see the lie of romantic love as a magic cure for existence itself, a fantasy that puts an impossible weight on another person's shoulders. You see these things, not with a cynical smirk, but with a deep, aching sadness. Because you get why the lies are necessary. They are shelters from the storm of a chaotic and terrifying universe. They give us comfort, safety, and a sense of purpose. Most people, as Nietzsche saw, don't want truth. They want comfort. They want the life-preserving consequences of their beliefs, and they couldn't care less about pure, unvarnished knowledge that offers no comfort at all. To see the truth is to stand outside in that storm with no shelter. And from there, you become a mirror that people can't stand to look into. Your silence, when they are so certain, feels like a judgment. Your honest questions feel like attacks. Your refusal to play along with the delusion isn't seen as integrity, but as arrogance. And so, the world punishes you. Not with open hostility, but with a quiet, creeping exclusion. You're too intense, too serious, a downer. You're the friend who stops getting invited to the party, the family member everyone avoids certain topics with. The world doesn't fight you. It just pretends you're not there. It seals the crack you slipped through. and the shared reality of the group becomes solid again, only this time without you. This is the terrible price. A loneliness so complete, it feels like you're speaking a different language. You are a traveler from a distant land, trying to describe a color no one else has ever seen. They smile, they nod, but in their eyes, you see nothing but a blank wall. You are alone with your terrible, beautiful, and agonizing clarity. This feeling of being a total outsider isn't new. It's not a symptom of our modern age or some personal failing. Over a century ago, a man who lived a life of intense physical pain and intellectual isolation diagnosed this exact condition. That man was Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche doesn't offer you a warm blanket. He offers a diagnosis and a challenge. He looks at your isolation and doesn't see a wound that needs healing, but a symptom of something much bigger. He tells you that your loneliness isn't an accident. It's a necessity. It's the natural, unavoidable result of growing intellectually and spiritually. To get why, we have to look at one of his most powerful ideas, the herd. For Nietzsche, society operates like a herd. That's not an insult. It's just a description of a basic human drive. The herd offers safety, warmth, and a shared rulebook. He calls this herd morality. Herd morality isn't about finding what's truly right or wrong. It's about setting up rules that help the group survive. It values things like obedience, humility, and conformity because those traits make people predictable and easy to manage. The herd's number one goal is to keep things stable. It fears chaos. It fears the unknown. And most of all, it fears the individual who stands apart. The person who questions the shared values, who dares to create their own, is a threat. They are a wild card in a carefully controlled game. To protect itself, the herd will label this person evil or dangerous. And right there is the source of your isolation. The moment you started seeing the comfortable lies, you started separating from the herd. Your awakening was an act of rebellion, whether you meant for it to be or not. Nietzsche argued that our truths, science, language, morality are human inventions. They're tools we created to make a chaotic world make sense. But the herd forgets this. It mistakes its own tools for divine law. It clings to its illusions because, as Nietzsche wrote, knowledge kills action. And to act, to build, to live, we need the veil of illusion. The herd needs its veil, but you've lifted a corner of it. And in doing so, you've become a different kind of person, what Nietzsche called a free spirit. The free spirit is someone who has the guts to cut themselves loose from the herd's morality. They think for themselves, they question everything, even their own deepest beliefs. They set off on a journey to create their own values, based not on what society says is good, but on what makes their own life feel more powerful and alive. But this journey, by its very nature, is a lonely one. Nietzsche is very clear about this. The free spirit enters a labyrinth, and the dangers of life multiply. The biggest danger? No one will understand you. Your path is your own, and because it's unique, it looks like nonsense to everyone else. They'll see your search for yourself as selfishness, your doubt as negativity, your solitude as hatred for humanity. This is Nietzsche's dark warning. The price of freedom is to be misunderstood. The price of awareness is loneliness. You aren't lonely because you're broken. You're lonely because you have started the hard work of becoming an individual. You dared to step out of the warm, crowded barn and into the vast, cold wilderness of your own mind. The herd can't follow you there. It can only watch you go and whisper that you're lost. Standing here, in the cold wilderness of your isolation, is where the real journey begins. This is the point where most people turn back, desperate for the warmth and safety of the herd. The pain of being misunderstood is just too much. But Nietzsche shows us another way. He asks us to see this wilderness not as a punishment, but as an opportunity, a forge, a sacred space where real strength is made. This is the great transformation, shifting from passive, painful loneliness to active, chosen solitude. Loneliness is a feeling of lack. It's the pain of being cut off from the herd, a wound that won't heal. But solitude is a state of fullness. It's when you deliberately choose to be with yourself, not because you hate other people, but because you need the space to create yourself. As Nietzsche advised, choose the good solitude, the free and light-hearted solitude that gives you the right to remain good yourself. In loneliness, you are eaten by yourself. In solitude, you feast on yourself. This solitude is the ultimate test of your strength. Can you stand the silence? Can you face the chaos inside you without the crowd to distract you? Can you, as Nietzsche famously asked, give birth to a dancing star from that chaos? For Nietzsche, suffering isn't something to avoid. It's the raw material of creation. A muscle only grows by being torn, and the spirit only grows by facing hardship. The solitude you feel is the fire that burns away your need for approval, your second-hand values, and your dependence on others. It's a painful purification, but a necessary one. What comes out of this fire is the individual who is truly free. This is Nietzsche's Übermensch, or Overman, not some comic book superhero, but a self-creator, an artist whose masterpiece is their own life. This new person has 3 fundamental freedoms, all born from solitude. First, freedom from validation. The herd animal lives and dies by what others think. Its self-worth is just a reflection in the eyes of the crowd. But the solitary spirit learns to be their own source of value. They don't need applause to know their worth. This is what makes them so dangerous. They can't be controlled because they don't need anything the herd can offer. Second, the freedom to create your own values. The herd lives by a pre-written script of good and evil. Nietzsche argues this script often comes from a place of resentment, a clever way for the powerless to make their own traits, like humility and obedience, the most celebrated virtues. The free spirit, in solitude, throws that script away. This is the transvaluation of all values. It's the terrifying and thrilling job of deciding for yourself what is noble and what is worth living for. You stop asking, "Is this good?" and start asking, "Does this make me stronger? Does this make me more alive?" Third, the freedom of perspective. Distance gives you clarity. From your solitary perch, you can see the herd for what it is, a fascinating and often tragic system. You're no longer caught up in its drama. You can observe it, understand its fears, and even feel a strange, detached compassion for it, all without being swept away. This transformation isn't a one-time event. It's a daily struggle. But it's through this struggle that you earn the greatest prize. As Nietzsche declared, no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. The terrible price of seeing the truth, that crushing isolation, becomes the very currency you use to buy back your own soul. So you've survived the wilderness. You've turned loneliness into creative solitude. You've started the huge project of forging your own values. But a huge question remains. Now what? How do you live? You can't stay on the mountaintop forever. You have to come back down to the marketplace, back among the very people you've moved beyond. How do you walk among the herd without getting trampled or sucked back in? To do this, you need one final subtle tool. Nietzsche called it the mask. Everything that is profound loves the mask, he wrote. He explained that a mask naturally grows around every deep thinker because every word they say and every step they take is constantly misinterpreted by those who only see the surface. The mask isn't about being fake. You're not lying about who you are. You're protecting who you are. It's an act of spiritual self-defense. Your deepest thoughts and your most authentic self are fragile things. To show them to the clumsy hands and crude eyes of the crowd is to risk having them broken. Think of it like this. Your inner world is a temple you built through incredible struggle. The mask is the outer wall of that temple. It protects what's sacred inside from people who would mess it up, not because they're evil, but because they just don't understand. It's a practical, intelligent recognition that there's a huge gap in understanding. You learn which parts of yourself to share and which to keep hidden. You make the small talk. You go through the social motions. You nod and smile, all while keeping the core of who you are safe and untouched. This isn't hypocrisy. It's wisdom. You can't have a deep conversation with someone who only speaks in cliches. You can't share your soul with someone who is terrified of their own. So you give them a version of you they can handle, a simplified interface, a mask. It allows you to coexist peacefully. The mask also gives you freedom of movement. By appearing harmless or even a little shallow, you're left alone. The herd doesn't see you as a threat, so it looks elsewhere. And behind that performance of normality, you're free to continue your real work, building your own soul. You live a double life. The outer self is a functioning citizen in the herd's world. The inner self is the sovereign ruler in the kingdom of your own mind. This is the subtle art of the free spirit. It's not about being a cynic. It's about becoming a guardian of your own depths. It allows you to participate in the world without letting the world own your soul. You offer society a face it can recognize, while your true face, the one you carved for yourself in the wilderness, remains your own. So, let's go back to the core question. Is the person who sees the truth destined for loneliness? And is that sacrifice the ultimate test of strength? Nietzsche's philosophy answers with a clear, resounding yes. The path of the individual is, by definition, a lonely one. To break from the group is to accept a life sentence of being fundamentally alone. You will walk a path no one else can, because you're creating it as you go. This isolation isn't just a risk, it's a guarantee. It's the tax on all true independence. And yes, this is the final test of strength. It's easy to feel strong when you're surrounded by an army chanting your name. It's something else entirely to stand alone on a silent battlefield with nothing but your own convictions. This isn't the strength of a brute. It's the quiet, enduring resilience of a mountain. The strength to be misunderstood without becoming bitter. The strength to face your own inner chaos without flinching. It's important to separate the man from the myth. The tragic story of Nietzsche, his philosophy wasn't his sickness. It was his radical attempt to create health and strength out of his own suffering. His work endures, influencing thinkers in fields from psychology to art, a testament not to a mind that broke, but to ideas that challenge us to become stronger. His legacy leaves us with a choice. On one side, There's the comfort of illusion, the warmth of the herd, the safety of shared beliefs, and the ignorance of a life lived on the surface. It's a life free from existential loneliness. It's predictable, it's safe, and for many people, that's enough. On the other side, there is the danger of truth, the path into the wilderness, the lonely work of creating yourself, the pain of being misunderstood, and the constant fight to be authentic. Nietzsche doesn't tell you which one to choose. He just lays out the options and the consequences. He shows you that the terrible price of seeing the truth is yourself. You have to sacrifice the person you were, the person society wanted you to become the person you actually are. You trade belonging for sovereignty. You trade comfort for meaning. And the reward? It's not happiness or peace. It's something much bigger. The reward is a dangerous freedom. It is the profound, earth-shaking privilege of owning yourself completely. The loneliness you feared isn't an empty void. It's the vast, open space where you can finally, truly breathe. It is the silence where you can finally hear your own voice. The price is terrible, but the prize is everything. If this journey into philosophical loneliness speaks to you, subscribe for more. This path into the wilderness is a solitary one, but it helps to know others are walking their own paths nearby. Share your own experiences with this kind of isolation in the comments. You might find you aren't as alone in your solitude as you think.